Hello, everyone, and welcome to Monster Party.
Monster Party!
Monster Party!
Oh.
Monster Party.
Oh, I'm thirsty.
Is this Monster Party?
This is
It
Monster
is.
Party.
I need a drink here.
And the theme is the courtship of Eddie's father. No,
On the contrary, my friend.
that is a lie.
On the contrary.
That is a lie.
It's Hazel.
That kind of was a horror show.
You know, I think you could tell that we have been drinking a little bit.
A little more.
But we have a very serious topic.
It's kind of it's sort of our origin story. And the theme of this show is what the hell is wrong with us?
Or if it's the NC-17 version, it's what the fuck is wrong with us?
or what the fuck is wrong with us?
Sean's had a little more than any of us tonight.
What the F is wrong with us?
What is wrong with us? Why is it we are who we are? Why
Right.
is
what
that?
made us? What made us?
What molded
You mean
us?
as in Monster fans,
as
Monster Kids?
fans?
However you want to
Monster
see it,
Kids.
Sean. Yes.
And
Monster
why,
Party members.
Monster Kids.
Why are we still like this? Why? This was not a phase. This is not something that we kind of flirted with, as kids, and then kind of just let it go, and then became responsible adults. No, we're in a lot of ways we are very similar to the way we were when we were 12 years old.
It's Arrested Development.
Yeah,
it really is.
In the
Monster
best of
Development.
ways. Because I'm sure now I have not really had a point in my life where I have stopped being into this stuff.
Yeah,
There have been areas.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there's not been a point where I have stopped being into this stuff. I have had points in my life where maybe I was, when I was a teenager, I had kind of a rebellious stage. And so there were other things that I was interested in.
Right.
And I was into rock music and whatever
Right.
else and punk. But at the same time, I always loved this stuff. I always loved comic books
Always.
and science fiction. Always.
Okay.
Not me.
Not you.
Not me.
Are
Nope.
you serious?
Nope. I got.
What are you doing here?
When I
Traitor.
I loved all this stuff until I got to be in my tweens, I guess.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I got too serious. I don't know. I started thinking like my head got too big.
Like, in what way, though? What do you mean? Like, what
You
did
know
you...
Too big with
what it
your
was?
own thoughts kind of a thing? Or
Star Wars came out and
Yeah.
I loved it. But by way of illustration, when and I bought the soundtrack and I listened to it a million times. I bought the novelization. But when the action figures came out, I thought, you know what? I'm over that. I'm too old for that. Then suddenly I was too old for a lot of things. And even though I loved, let's say, Godzilla when I was a little kid, when I was in junior high, my friend invited me to go see a matinee of Godzilla vs. Gigan, which was released theatrically as Godzilla on Monster Island.
Right.
And when he suggested that, I cracked up. I was like, well, you want to see that? Yes. I admit
Side
to you.
James.
Oh my God! I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm a friend of yours.
Because on the same weekend, Woody Allen's Interiors opened.
Oh my!
And
Which is similar in some themes to Godzilla versus Gigan.
Annie Hall had just won Best Picture.
Right.
And I was like, no, you know what? I'm a mature teenager and I want to see Interiors. I don't really want to see Godzilla vs. Gigan. So it was playing at the exact same multiplex in the same movie
if you
house.
tell me it was a double feature, I will love you forever.
That's like saying you'd rather see Yentl than Logan's Run.
No, look, guys. I don't want to like chastise you. Look, I do want to say, look, Interiors is.
Do you need a moment?
No.
Larry?
You shut up for
Take
a
a deep
second.
breath. Take a deep breath.
Interiors is a good movie. I understand about the Woody Allen stuff, and so there's some great stuff. But oh my God, you just almost brought me to tears when you said that you laughed. And
Listen,
I don't know why you guys are laughing. You're so freaking cool.
What ended up happening was I went to the movie, I went to the matinee with my friend, and I told him, listen, Interiors is playing at the same theater, and I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna see Interiors.
Okay, but the question is, did you walk away satisfied with Interiors?
Well, there's a story here because you had to pay separate admission.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you didn't, but go ahead.
Well, I did because I thought there's no way I can just stay after Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Yes, it's a thing called crime. Go ahead.
I went and bought another ticket for Interiors and went back into the same theater because I'm the kind of guy I cannot get away with shit. I get called on everything. So I went and I bought another ticket. It was like $2. I walked back into Interiors alone. My friend went home. And the usherette didn't believe that I had bought a ticket for interiors, so she grabs me by the collar and drags me out of the theater.
Are you serious?
Takes me to the box office where the kid is like, oh yeah, he bought a ticket. It's like, okay, yeah,
What?
I can. She sends me back in. I go watch interiors. I got something out of it. I probably enjoyed interiors as much as I enjoyed Godzilla versus Gigan, which is to say marginally. They're both, minor.
Both have great dialogue.
minor efforts of the genre. But
Geraldine Page is great in Godzilla vs. Gigan.
The dialogue between Anguirus and Godzilla, very similar to interiors.
well, listen. The point being is a few years later, I get to NYU Film School, and I still got this pretentious, mature head on me, and suddenly we've got to make these short movies, and we've got to be creative, and there was all this pressure to be creative. And at the time, I was like 17, 18.
You were going to make a short film called Exteriors, and then you realized you should make a Godzilla film instead.
What happened was at that point in my life,
Diane Keaton on Monster Island.
at that exact point in my life, I became totally miserable because I was like, it was an identity crisis. And I went into Forbidden Planet, which was near the NYU campus at the time. And right at that moment, Bandai was starting to release the vinyls. And I saw that Godzilla vinyl for the first time, and I thought, I should pick this up. Even though I was not an action figure fan or a big Godzilla fan at the time, I was unhappy enough at film school that this little thing suddenly would give me happiness. And then the floodgates opened. I need not be serious anymore. Now it was
like more that the unpretentious kind of like just having a great time, monster, cool kind of thing came back.
The escape from reality.
Right.
And ever since then, the floodgates open, and I have not turned back.
Well,
interesting.
I'm a little different.
I got to hear your story.
No, the thing that I have to tell you, I almost got like a little tear in my eye when you said that you laughed at your friend. And, I'd always said, if I had met James when I was like younger, boy, that would have been great. No, I would have been that friend that would have said to James, hey, let's go see Godzilla vs. Gigan. And he'd laugh at me.
And then you'd be walking home alone while
I'd be walking home alone. No, for me, there was kind of a moment, Matt. My cousins had come over, my aunt and uncle had come over to our house, and the cousins were staying there, and it was getting really late. And all the kids were playing together, and my older brothers decided to turn on the TV set while my cousins were playing. I was about 4 years old.
Okay.
And it happened to be, there was a movie that was on, and I didn't know what it was, but I was playing with my cousins. I think we were like, playing with cars or Hot Wheels or something like that. And I caught just a little bit of what the movie was that was on the TV set downstairs. And I just turned and I saw this giant scorpion attack a guy on a telephone wire. Oh. And it was the Black Scorpion.
Yeah.
Which I had never seen the whole film, and it was just that clip.
Great 50s
monster
film.
A lot of great action in that, too.
I was about 4, and I was frozen. I was frozen. I saw that, and I stopped playing with my cousins. I started to walk down to the family room, and I started to watch a bit of it, and my brothers turned to me. My older brother goes, "Oh, this is just, you got to get out of here. This is too scary." And it was this forbidden thing that I can't watch, this giant monster thing that I can't watch. That's kind of what did it. And then the next film that was on a couple weeks later happened to be King Kong. Oh. So these two movies with big monsters kind of did when I was really young. Now, unlike my good friend here, I had this love of these monsters my entire life. I have never, ever had that moment when I thought it wasn't cool. And in fact, I got a bunch of weird stories here. But, I mean, even in the tweens, the high school thing, okay, I believe it or not, I love my monsters. I love my science fiction. And when I was introduced to Frankenstein, Wolfman, The Mummy, as I started to learn more about it, as I got 6 to 7 to 8, my first Famous Monsters magazine. Oh, yeah. I mean, I just totally embraced it. Guys, I embraced it so much. I started like a little monster club at school. I started to make little Super 8 movies that were monster related. I made a film, He Thirsts for Blood, Bon Appetit, which is, this grotesque little graphic.
That was your first porn movie.
No, it was a monster. It was like a monster. It was like a slasher film. But I think the thing is when people get into high school, when you start to change and stuff.
Right, you want to be with the cool crowd and whatever.
Okay, well, I had this really weird thing where I didn't care because I thought my stuff was cool anyway. I thought my monsters were cool. And I did. I had friends who said, hey, Larry, want to smoke some pot or something? And, the truth is, to spend money on pot, it's like, no, because then I won't be able to spend money on my monster book or my, yeah. I never got into it. And when I did get a girlfriend my freshman year, and she came over to the house. She came into the bedroom, and she saw from floor to ceiling shelves of Star Wars toys, monster toys, and I don't know what she was thinking. The relationship didn't last very long, but I was so proud of it, and I wanted to show her. I said, "Look at my cool collection. Have you ever seen a collection like this?" And of course, she's all, no.
But now
I was also one of these kids. Also, there was something that was really traumatic that happened to me when I was a kid, and that was I loved monsters so much, and Frankenstein and Dracula Wolfman were really big with me. And there was this in the middle of the summer. I built a graveyard in my backyard. I had my younger brother and sister kind of help. I built like this fake coffin.
Right around the time when all those murders happened in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah, I built this graveyard, and I took Christmas lights from the house, and I put them in, and I lit them all up, and I built the skeleton inside, and I was so proud of it. I invited all the neighborhood kids to come over. Well, there was this kid, Greg, and his sister, Tawny, who thought they should invite their mom over to check it out. Well, the mom was pretty disturbed, and I guess she had a long talk with my mother.
What? Really?
Yeah, this is true. And my parents never told me what Mrs. Wallace had talked to them about. And it wasn't until years later when my mom told me that, well, she was very concerned. Mrs. Wallace was concerned. She thought that I was retarded. You see, yeah, she thought I was retarded,
What?
and
Because you like monsters.
she was really nervous about having her daughter come over and see the monsters. She thought that was a little disturbed.
First of all, that's wrong on so many levels. First of all, if a person was genuinely retarded, why is she worried about having her friend?
Yeah, why would that be?
But
this woman obviously had some problems of her own.
But then I asked my mom and dad, I said, why did you guys let me do this? And they go, well, Larry, you were so creative. We wanted to find out what would you come up with next. So actually, Mom and Dad were actually very supportive. And actually, through my entire life, my parents were always very supportive, always giving me, rubber dinosaurs or monsters. So my parents were actually very supportive. And so I never had that moment when I pushed it out the window. It's been that my entire life.
All right. Well, now how about you?
Yeah, actually, very similar to you, Larry, as far as, my parents were always supportive of me. Just they also they let me stay up late and watch TV. Mm-hmm. And I had a younger sister, so, she would be to bed. I would be up by myself watching all this stuff on television. This is how I got into monsters. I don't really even remember the very first monster film I saw or how I got into it. But I remember all my life it was because there's a story that my parents always told me. I don't know how old I was, maybe 4 or 5. I was really young, and they told me that, I don't remember this, but they always told me this story that, I have a younger sister, and my sister Heather always wanted to play, let's play house, play you're the husband, the father, and I'm the mother, and we
you might want to just gloss over that part of it. Go ahead.
And she was and I was like, I don't want to play that. She said, yeah, come on, just play this. You'll be the husband, you come home with a newspaper, and then we'll talk about how your day was or something. And it's okay, I'll do this. So I grabbed a newspaper, and she would be the wife at home making dinner. And I came home, and and they told me the way I did was I took out the newspaper and I was oh my God, honey, there's a giant monster attacking the city. The entire city's being evacuated. We have to leave. Come on, let's go. And she didn't know what to think, so we just got. And so I just right away started playing monster.
Oh my God, that's great.
And I got really, really young when I did this, but that was my instinct to do that. So
that's genius.
I always was into monsters.
You saved the game house.
Exactly. But on Famous Monsters, on watching this stuff growing up on TV, I was kind of always in it, and I also never really got out of it. I never really, in a way, kind of like you, Larry. I never really got in the bad crowd. Not that I was really ever tempted much, but I think really being into monsters and all this stuff kind of kept me busy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for teenagers, a lot boredom, boredom results in kind of bad behavior.
That's true.
And I was never bored because I was always into these movies, these monster toys and everything. It just that kind of kept me busy like all the time, So yeah, so I was kind of always into it, and it continued, and it still continues.
Yeah, I share that with you guys in the sense that I've never not been into this stuff, but I developed other interests, but they, yeah.
Like regular people. Look at other interests.
Not exactly
Go
like regular people, but I'm sure that you guys at the same time you liked all this monster stuff. As I was growing up, I also enjoyed just classic filmmaking too. I watched regular movies and enjoyed those as well, but I had a special affinity for anything that was sci-fi or monster related. Like when I was growing up, the things like my earliest memories are like going to see Planet of the Apes in the theater when it came out. 2001: Space Odyssey I saw in the theater.
Wow.
And I remember it like a fever dream.
Did you see it when it first came out?
Oh yeah.
You must have been like 4 years old.
Yeah, exactly. And
I didn't go till later.
So strange, but I remember even at 4 years old being fascinated by it, and I don't remember feeling bored. I remember just like it was just like this weird other world that I was inhabiting for a while.
Yeah,
and but then like the monster stuff started with my brother. He had a whole set of the Aurora model kits that my dad, who was a really good artist, painted up really nicely, and I was fascinated by them. And then like my brother and I got into creature features and watching the movies. And my parents were very similar to Sean's, and I'm sure yours were, if it was the weekend, you could stay up as late as you wanted.
Yeah.
And usually what would happen, of course, is you'd fall asleep before you wanted to, and then you'd curse yourself because you missed the end of the movie.
I missed the ending.
I
missed the ending of Angry Red Planet.
I always stayed up late. I was like ready to drop dead afterward.
Yeah,
but
I couldn't do it. But yeah, I was always into it, and then got to a place where I would, I did all the things like I made the Super 8 movies. We did a little Island of Dr. Moreau movie. We did Logan's Run parody kind of a thing, and did all that kind of stuff. And Famous Monsters. Went to conventions all the time. Really into Star Trek. Went to a convention and won second prize in the costume contest.
Did you really?
Yes.
How old were you?
I was. It was around the time Logan's Run came. It was around the time Logan's Run came out, and it was
76?
Something, yeah. And I was like 12 or something like that.
Wow.
And it was a box costume that my dad helped me make. And that was like, my parents were similar. Like my mom really loved science fiction as well. And so they were very encouraging. And my dad was an artist and always kind of wanted to be a professional artist. And so he was very encouraging anything artistic. And they were great. And then my brother, who was also like science fiction, he also helped my love of horror, and because he provided real horror in my life.
Like I had a bit of that too.
Yeah, and he would do things like he was the guy who would he'd be babysitting me, and he would go into he would shut off all the power in the house, and then I'd be sitting there in the dark, and he'd be in the background going. And I remember once we saw, this was on Creature Features, we saw The Last Man on Earth, the Richard Matheson I Am Legend movie.
Vincent
with Vincent Price. And, those classic scenes of Morgan.
Let us in, Morgan.
Of course, as soon as the movie is over, out goes the power in the house. Morgan.
Now, did your brother ever hit you or anything like that, or?
Well, not
because I had two. Because you know what, I had two older brothers who did that crap to me.
Yeah, no, I got.
They were mean when they were younger.
The only time he really hurt me.
Yeah,
and this was when he was actually trying to be nice to me in a strange way. He was trying to teach me how to be tough.
Yeah,
and so his thing was like, I'm going to teach you how to tighten your stomach muscles. And so if you get hit in the stomach, you'll be ready for it, right? And he goes, I'm going to hit you like really soft, but tighten your stomach muscles. And I'm like, okay, and he hits me, and then he goes, all right, I'm going to hit you a little bit harder, and gradually harder each time. Like, can you take it? Yeah, okay. And pretty soon he's walloping me pretty good. But I'm like, I'm okay, all right. So finally he gets to this point where he goes, okay, now I'm going to hit you as hard as I possibly can.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. And he goes, can you take it? I go, yeah, all right, go. So he just lets one fly, and he misses and hits me right in my balls. Yeah. Oh. And it almost goes through the other side.
Oh my
God. I swear for a second I saw the flash of a fist come out my ass.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like just double over, and it was like, the rest of the night is like, don't tell mom. Like, I'm going to tell mom.
You thought you were going to die.
I thought I was going to die. But yet at the same time, he also, within this crazy environment, he was also, everybody kind of loved this stuff except my dad, who tolerated it, But, I stayed with it all the way through, except when I got to junior high school, I became a complete juvenile delinquent.
Oh.
Still loved it.
Shawn,
this is where I went off the rails.
This is where you went off the rails.
This is went off the rails. I sold pot. I smoked pot. I did acid.
Are you serious?
Cocaine.
Wow.
Oh my God!
I did every drug up until about my sophomore year. I went berserk.
Oh my God!
I did acid at school.
He was not busy with monsters.
No. But I loved all this stuff too. I was still into it, and I would at the same time I was talking about Logan's Run. I'd go, "Hey, want to cut class and get high behind the gym?" Like that kind of shit. And I would collect these Ken Films Super 8 movies.
Yeah, I remember those.
And I had Star Wars and Logan's Run, and I would invite all my stoner druggy friends to my house. We'd get high and watch Star Wars.
Oh my God!
And that made it okay.
Okay, you probably had a lot of friends then.
I did.
Okay, I didn't have as many friends as Matt, but I will say this: when I get my big claim to fame, though, I was really, really proud of this. I tried playing football. I tried to do some sports. I did some sport things. Never really had a lot of friends, but had to do.
And football is with the paddles.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
We had to do a speech on. It was my speech class, and we had to do a speech on how to make something. So I decided to give a speech on how to make fake movie blood, and then I ended the speech with the film I made, my short film called Bon Appetit, which is about these two brothers who get in an argument, and one decides to just slash and hack up the other brother. Nice. And it ends with, and I'll never forget showing this in this packed class of a bunch of freshmen, and Larry, who's that little odd kid. The last scene is the one brother's on the table and he's flaying around. He's got all cut up, and the brother grabs the guy's head, takes a spoon, digs it into eye socket, pulls it out, and eats it. And the class went nuts. They freaked out, and then the film ends. They freaked, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, you see that film that Larry made? Oh my God! And all of a sudden, the talk went around school. Larry made this really, and all people were talking to me. I'm like, hey, I'm the big classic filmmaker now.
There you go.
That's
so that was the moment when I in high school where it was like, oh, I had made something of myself,
and I got people's attention.
I did.
Did you get a girl out of that one, or?
Deliberately, a girl said, "Gee, you made a great movie." No, I mean, I did get a second and a third girlfriend.
I've seen pictures of you as a young kid.
Yeah,
and I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but you were kind of delicious.
Well, I had a girlfriend my freshman year. Many guys do, and there was
not all.
There was a girlfriend sophomore year. There was a girlfriend in junior, and there were a couple in senior year. So I mean, but it's like
I have a similar story though.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I got to a place where there was I think it was my not my sophomore, maybe sophomore year, I think, of high school. And there was a filmmaking class that we had at my high school. Mm-hmm. And they also did other stuff. It was art, but they had a filmmaking course. And I got really into this. And I ended up kind of sort of being, there all the time and sort of took it over for a little bit. And I started making this film called Alias, which was an alien comedy.
Oh,
and it was based on Alien.
A comedy?
A comedy version of Alien.
Okay.
Where we had this crazy alien and we have a chest burster scene.
No.
And I had some kids help me with the, special effect part of that. And we had a fake chest. And I did spaceships and a star field and all this and put all this stuff together. And it was like 17 minutes long. It was pretty long.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's an epic.
Yeah. It had lots of stuff going on, and so anyway, so this thing is done, and I start taking it around to different classes, and I had this class that was a radio TV class with this guy, Mr. Bates, Bob Bates, Bob Yates, and he was just great. He was like this sort of hippie teacher. Just a lovely man, and I brought this in. I showed it to his class, and this is so strange because I show it, it gets all this applause and everything, and so I'm out of high school now, and I get a call from this girl that I knew in high school, and she's like, "Hey, this is I don't want to give her name, but she's like, I remember when you played that film in class, and I remember." Mr. Yates going, that guy's going to go places. And so, hey, would you like to go out? And I was like, wow. And this was a girl who was kind of, had a thing for.
Yeah.
And how much longer after school? This is years later?
This was maybe a year later because it took a little while to get the film. So like during my senior year, it was kind of like getting around this film.
Sure.
But yeah, there was a lot of that was that weird stage. It was like a crossover, and then I went into college and was in filmmaking in City College of San Francisco and did all kinds of science fiction type related stuff.
Yeah.
So that was a time where it was like I had sort of cleaned up my act a little bit.
Sure.
And but still always into this stuff, always into film, always into monsters. But then, no, I think we can all agree on this, and tell me if you don't agree, but I got to a place in my life where I rediscovered the collecting aspect.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
And I got to a place where, during those days I wasn't buying toys, I was buying drugs and other things.
Yeah.
But I got to a place where all of a sudden I was making a good amount of money. I had a job after school, or after college. And I had money coming in. I went into a comic book store and I saw some cool Godzilla toys, kind of like you, some vinyl Godzilla toys. And I went, hey, those are pretty cool. How much are those? Well, that's pretty affordable. And maybe I'll get a couple of those. And I put them up on my shelf and that doesn't seem enough.
Yeah.
I should go back to that comic book store and buy a couple more.
Because as a kid, I think we all had the Aurora model kits because at the time that's all there was.
Yeah.
Right.
So we all had those, but it wasn't. I mean, you collected those, but I wasn't really super diehard into collecting stuff. Actually, what changed for me was I think the through line for me was Famous Monsters. I always got Famous Monsters issues, and I started getting the back issues also. Yeah. But then. And you read Famous Monsters, and you always see the behind-the-scenes photos. You see how they make the movies. But then it was weird. But really, what happened was when the first Star Wars came out, there's this kind of like sea change where now it was about how they make these movies and Industrial Light and Magic and how they did the effects, and that became a big thing. And I actually, ironically, I did not buy the original Star Wars toys when they came out, the figures, the small figures, but then the Mego figures I really got into.
Planet of the Apes,
and I started getting those, and then it just opened this whole other kind of like side to it, where not just watching the movies, but kind of like collecting, getting more models and figures, and so you started getting into that, and then it was just kind of just continued from there, and then the Godzilla Bondis, when I first saw the Godzilla Bondis, which was what, late 80s, early 90s?
Yeah, it was like 80s. It was, I remember 83 is when I remember seeing.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I remember what it was. It was a Gigan. It was the Gigan and the Megalon vinyl Bondis. I'm like, behind a counter, I think it was at Wacko in Melrose in L.A. I'm like, what are those? Are those model kits? I'm like, no, those are vinyl figures. Can I see them? I was like, whoa, these are awesome. And I started getting into all those. But then, I mean, and now I think we all have huge collections of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. But I got to a place where it was where I had money now.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid having to beg my parents to get a bag of Army Men,
Yeah.
And then now you got some money in your pocket and you're like, well, now I can get all this stuff.
It's funny you should say that. I was a different kid, Sean, because the first monster figure I had was the AHI Frankenstein figure. And I did have the models and stuff, but I was a different kind of kid. I did like to play with them, but I was really delicate when I played with them, and I loved lining them up on a shelf. I was really big into like putting things up on shelves and then displaying them. When the Star Wars figures came out, I love those things. And yes, I did get the whole set, and yes, I have all of them still. I have all of my Star Wars figures.
Mint in box.
Well, some of them are mint in box, some of them are not, but they're in great perfect shape.
So you never like set your figures on fire or blew them up with firecrackers?
See, my younger brother and my older brother, my other older brother would take my younger brother's stuff and light them on fire. And for some reason, because maybe I was very anal, about my toys or something, mine were kind of left alone. But, going back to Famous Monsters, when I got my first Famous Monsters magazine, I saw it at a 7-Eleven, and like Forey said, it like jumped out at me and said, "Take me home, little boy, you will love me." And I loved it and I worshipped it. My mom sent my picture into Famous Monsters, which was actually printed in one of the episodes.
Wanted more readers like...
Yes. Unfortunately, she also accidentally sent one of my older brother's pictures in. And mine was in one issue. My older brother was in another issue, and he was livid. He was so pissed off. He was so angry. He goes, "Why put my picture in?" Now he feels differently about it, but I do remember he was mad. He thought I mailed it in. I said, "Why would I send your picture into the magazine that I love?"
Well, see, what's cool about Famous Monsters, too, is like the whole idea of ordering back issues from the magazine.
Back issues.
That was like a cool... I really got into that. I would look at the covers. Oh, this issue has King Kong in it. Oh, this issue is about whatever. I'm going to get that one. Like, I really got into that. Not just ordering from the magazine, but going to like comic shops and looking for back issues. I love that.
But see, also Famous Monsters was the only place. I mean, if you think about it, Sean, you look in the back pages of the early Famous Monsters magazines. That's like the first places where you could see other monster toys or figures that you couldn't get anyplace
Captain
else.
Company was the only place.
Exactly. It was Captain Company. And Matt, you bring up a really good thing. Yeah, when I started to work. When I worked, right when I was 16, man, I got a job so I could get money so I could start buying things myself. But I'll never forget going to a toy store. It was a little toy store by Mervin's in San Jose. And I'll never forget seeing it was a Creature from the Black Lagoon figure from AHI. It was the female version. And it was on sale for $2. Wow. It might as well have been $1 million because I didn't have $2. I couldn't get. I'm from a large family. My parents didn't have money to blow.
But you did get the entire Star Wars set when you were a kid, right?
Well, little bits and see that was a little later.
I got a toy on Christmas and on my birthday, and that was it. And I got a bag of Army Men or something like that during the year. So I had to. There was no getting a full set of anything.
Well, getting back to the creature, I never forgot that creature because the vision of that creature was in my head, and it took me years later when I saw it at a toy convention. And I bought him for $80. Now he sells for a lot more. But it's funny you should say when you first get your first job. I worked as a busboy at a restaurant in San Jose, and I was talking to some of these waiters about, okay, so I'm a little older now, let's say 17 or something like that, and I was telling these waiters, there's this great toy convention that you can go to and you can buy toys, and they decided to go with me. A couple of waiters, and I went to this toy convention, and they followed me as I went from table to table, and I picked up robots here. I spent $900.
And back then, that was a good
money. When you were 17 years old?
Yeah, I had saved for a while because the toy convention was like every 6 months. And the first time I spent $900 on these toys, like toy robots.
Did they buy anything?
A couple of them did buy a couple of things, but they were like blown away that I've spent $900 on. Yeah. And so the toy collection has grown considerably.
I think we can all say that we've got a lot of stuff.
Between the four of us, yeah.
Well, my first job was delivering pizzas in Flushing, New York. I was 15. Most of my disposable income did not go to toys or action figures, but it went to soundtrack albums.
Oh, right.
That's right.
My first paycheck, I bought the soundtrack to Dress to Kill and The Elephant Man. It was 1980.
Yeah,
that's kind of a monster film.
Pino Donaggio and
John Morris.
Very
good, yeah. I was 10 when Jaws came out. I had to have the album. Star Wars, of course. If I saw any John Williams after that. Right. After Capricorn 1, any Jerry Goldsmith album.
Mm-hmm. Capricorn 1's so good.
I love that score.
I love that movie.
Great cast. Yeah.
And then Alien, and Goldsmith. Forget it.
Alien.
And the James Bond films, the John Barry albums. So I would amass hundreds and hundreds of soundtracks. That was my addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mine was cocaine.
And also,
not really, but it's more pot than anything else.
Sort of contrary to your high school experiences. I don't know about you, Sean, but I was a classic nerd. I was such a late bloomer. I did not date until I was 24, 23.
Wow.
We're talking late.
Wow.
Glasses, overweight, pimples, horrible self-esteem.
Really? Wow.
Classic nerd. Total nerd. not even that bright, not like a genius nerd, but just a closet case.
You are really painting the picture here.
I know. I was pathetic.
But you are one of the handsomest people here, and probably has incredible knowledge. So more than any of us. So
how did you grow into your matinee idol looks today?
Well, no, it's. I'm glad though that I didn't get into more experiences when I was younger, because I don't know, frankly, if I would have had the maturity to handle them. Like if I had a girlfriend, if I was in high school, would probably have gotten a family right away. There'd be 2 or 3 kids. I'd be living in Jackson Heights, New York.
He's miserable.
Wow.
Yeah. No,
you don't know how to do it right. There's a thing called the condom.
I was clueless. I think in some ways I'm still.
You don't put them on your nose or your ears, right on the penis.
No, I don't know. I had a lot of shit to deal with. I was not ready, and everything.
He had shit to deal with.
But you
Okay,
had-
take it easy. Can you take it easy over there,
Look, you know what?
Mr. Cocaine over here? Yeah, can you just
Mr.
like
Cocaine.
take it down a notch?
Look, anybody.
Hello,
It's a new nickname.
I'm Mr. Cocaine.
Any 14-year-old that's going to see a double feature of Godzilla vs. Gigan and Interiors is going to have issues, and they're going to take years.
Yes, and send your friend away who wanted to see Godzilla.
I had a time in my life where I had to decide: was I going to see Broadway Danny Rose, or was I going to see? No.
And that's not a bad film.
No, I love that movie. Actually,
That's a great film.
Hey, no, not knocking Woody Allen. Actually,
Okay.
I love Woody Allen, but no. But
Well, and that's it.
Oh, all right, Mr. Name Dropper.
Well, and that's the other thing for me too, is that I also had a thing at the same time that I loved all the monster stuff. I was also really into comedy. So comedy was a
Right.
big thing. So I got into George Carlin and Woody Allen. I was like, I had Sleeper
Yeah.
memorized
man.
at some point because I did the whole thing
Fantastic
before
movie.
VHS or anything like that. I like recorded the movie, with the cassette deck,
Yeah.
and I listened to. I'd be in the bathtub listening to Sleeper.
this
and,
is our leader's nose.
Yeah, exactly. That's so good.
And
So good.
you'd like them. You're a big Munsters fan, right? Big Munsters fan.
I-
Horror comedy.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, I love all that stuff. But like I was really into like Albert Brooks and like a giant, and then I got into stand up too, and that was a whole nother. So I've had that sort of parallel track, but at the same time, it's always even in like the first stand up that I ever did. That I would call an act of any kind was at a Star Trek convention.
Was it really?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my God,
I did
I didn't
Star
know.
Trek stand up.
That's
No
awesome.
way.
And I did, and it ended with a whole Captain Kirk thing, and I had my Captain Kirk uniform, and I did a whole William Shatner, and there was like,
It's still funny. It's still funny.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
But there was like Grace Lee Whitney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was
Ewan Rand?
I incorporated this thing into the costume contest of one of these. I think it was like a creation convention.
Creation con.
Right.
Yeah.
And Grace Lee Whitney, who played Janice Rand on the original Star Trek, she was one of the judges.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did this whole Captain Kirk thing, and then I turned to her, and I went, Janice. And I stop pretending, Janice. From The Enemy Within.
Yeah.
And,
Classic.
and she laughed really hard. And so I ended up, again, second place. But
But you got second place.
I got second place.
Yeah, that you placed. That's
placed.
huge.
I
That's
Matt,
great.
if memory serves, haven't you also relayed an experience in your stand-up about dating a certain Star Trek actor's daughter?
Well, this is so a very good friend of mine is Danielle Koenig.
Oh,
And Danielle Koenig,
She's a comedian.
She is a comedian, and she's just a lovely person, just brilliantly funny. But when I first met her, my manager at the time was her manager.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
Bruce Smith at Omnipop. And if anybody is offering any work of any kind.
yes. The
Yeah.
comedy business is going through a
Always
period.
on.
Yeah,
Gotta-
that's right.
Gotta keep those wheels moving. But so Danielle, this is my new client, and I also heard that she was, Walter Koenig's daughter. Really cute. And this is before she ended up dating Jimmy Pardo, who's also a very good friend of
Right.
mine. They're married now and
Okay.
very happily married and family and everything. But still, we're great friends. But before that, I was like, this girl's really cute. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe I should ask her out. But then and if things go right, maybe we have dinner. Back to my place. Who knows where it could lead, right?
Uh-oh.
But then I thought, wait a minute. I think I've got an action figure of her dad on a shelf in my bedroom. And you know what could mess up a sexual encounter faster than seeing a plastic version of your dad staring down at you from a shelf going, honey, why the hell are you here? Honey, you got to get out of here. This guy's a dork. Honey, I've been in his ass. Get out of here.
Well, maybe it was a good thing that didn't work out.
Things go the way they're supposed to go. But to this day, we're very good friends, and she's always been very flattered. I'm one of the few people that's ever written a joke about her.
Well, it's funny she'd go into like marriages and or relationships and marriages. And my wife and I, when we got together, it was a big thing about any girl I'm going to bring over, and so they've got to. This is who I am. And she actually thought that the Godzilla stuff, in her opinion, was kind of retro and kind of cool. When we got married, this a few years later, we actually had Godzillas on top of our wedding cake. Yeah. We had a bride and groom Godzilla. She actually embraced it, and actually there were a lot of fun and lovely jokes about Larry and his Star Wars, sleeping in his Star Wars sheets and stuff. But it was all in good fun. It was actually very lovely, and she actually is actually proud of the collection that I've amassed.
No, she's a good egg. Yeah. I mean, and you had a similar thing too, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, my wife Gina and I, when we got married, we had robots on our cake.
I remember.
And actually, we had a separate reception though later, and we had Godzillas also. So on our cake.
And what about your wedding?
Oh yeah, we had this amazing wedding video, which we kind of had a couple people just filming our wedding. A couple different cameras from our relatives, and a good friend of ours, Jason Smith, actually. He and his friends got together and made a whole kind of like little sci-fi adventure around our wedding because we got married in Vegas.
Yeah.
And so he took scenes from Mars Attacks where the Martians are actually attacking Las Vegas and intercut it so that's happening while we're doing our vows. And then there's a lightsaber fight in the middle of our ceremony, and it was fantastic. Yeah. So it was like the ultimate nerd wedding video.
It was a great It was a great wedding. I was there. I had a lot of fun, and I especially liked when we went up to the reception, how I decided to play bartender.
It was great. We had a whole reception at the Luxor, and
that was a lot of fun.
Great. But no, it's just true. And with my wife too. My wife actually, I'd say she's more into sci-fi than hardcore horror. Yeah. But that's cool, and she's really into robots, but she's really into
your wife
not
is
a deal breaker.
No, you know what? Your wife is a gem. And I absolutely love and adore her. She's so great.
She embraced our collection too. We have a separate room of just our collectibles. We have an entire room that we reserved wholly for our collectibles. We had shelves made.
Amazing.
It's beautiful.
And it's and that's something that not many married couples maybe have.
The original intention was for me to have a separate room for all my stuff, but it's sort of gone beyond that. And and again, though, my wife Carrie is lovely, and as you listeners know, she's a good egg. She can hang.
She's a great egg.
And
great egg.
Even when it sort of overflows that room, she'll kindly tell me, maybe this should go upstairs. But the fact that she's also into it too. I mean, she loves. Some of our favorite Saturday nights are sitting having a Defiance marathon.
And for our listeners, just to let you know, I mean, she's such a great gal. I mean, she has embraced it so much because it's not only in the living room and the kitchen and their bedroom.
Right,
it's on the table. It's in their freaking master bathroom. I mean, I'm sitting down the toilet there, and there's an action figure is looking right at me. I can't. I don't even go that far.
Well,
but
and then we have. I don't know if we discussed this on previous episodes, but
I'm sure we have.
But the idea that my sort of holy grail is this Robbie the Robot, this full-size working Robbie the Robot, which costs a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And when I told her this is something that I wanted, which is, could get up to $30,000 or something like that.
Yeah, could.
She, instead of saying, oh no, she's like, no, that's going to happen. When we get our house, we're going to find a place, and it's going to happen. And that's,
she's worth holding on to, buddy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But see, now this kind of opens this thing up into, One thing I noticed, because when I got to a place in my life where I just realized this is who I am. Mm-hmm. I like this stuff. I love this stuff, and I'm not going to pretend like I don't. And I got my big collection going kind of early in my stand-up days. Mm-hmm. And, you stand up, you're out in bars and places, you're meeting people, and I would every once in a while, I'd bring a lady home, and more often than not, people would be every woman would be fine with it, because it'd be more of like taking a cue of like, if you're fine with it, then I'm fine with it.
Right.
This is what you're into, and it's like if you're being defensive about it, or if you're kind of come off like you're ashamed of this.
Yeah.
That's when it's weird.
Right.
But if you own it,
yeah.
And now we're in it, and God, we should have lived in a different time.
Yeah.
But now, the whole nerd thing has been embraced.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it's very different. I mean, once you say that right now, it's kind of like a normal accepted thing for the most part.
Well, if you think, go ahead.
No, I just think that, I guess for our generation, our age, it's not that odd of a thing now. A lot of ways, it's kind of like nerds are running the whole kind of show in this world in a way. I mean, the movies that come out,
every other movie is a science fiction horror,
are made by nerds,
big budget
for
stuff.
Nerds,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
And also,
nerds, geeks, whatever you want to call them. It's not. It's just kind of it's like.
It's surrounding us, and it's also in popular culture. I mean, for example, the TV show The Big Bang Theory, for example.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it.
Well, it's here you have a group of nerds, into science fiction, fantasy, and superheroes and stuff. I mean, it's a top-rated show. It's an Emmy Award-winning show. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's and then you have these shows whether have. Vampire Diaries.
Well, you've never had this many horror and sci-fi TV shows and movies happening. Right
oh my
now.
gosh!
I mean, it's kind of like
even though, would you agree? Even though the film The Green Lantern did not do well, Sean, don't you agree with me? If this were made 20 years ago, it would have been a cheap, low-budget film. Instead, it was this huge,
right. I mean, all the money is spent on these movies.
And I'll bet you that The Green Lantern overall. Mm-hmm. It has done okay, you know what I mean, international, right. And all that.
I mean, I give an example. I mean, there are so many other films, that are huge hits. I just picked that just as an example of one that maybe not have done that well, but it's still you have studios saying, okay, we're going to put all this money into this. It's a superhero.
Well, Guardians of the Galaxy.
With a raccoon.
It's a giant.
I mean, and it's so funny. The reviews are so great. It's making a ton of money. I mean, who would have known this wouldn't have happened 20 years ago?
Yeah. Especially what's to me is so amazing about Guardians of the Galaxy is that because I was curious because I know of Guardians of the Galaxy from the comic books, and that it's just this sort of weird, obscure sort of superhero team that why would you pick this? Well, it's actually a brilliant idea to pick this because it's a new set of heroes that haven't been done to death.
Right.
You have a whole new brand of merchandising and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Also, they were really smart in that movie is really a throwback as far as just being a fun kind of almost naively innocent kind of comic book movie. It really is a comic book movie in the truest sense.
Yeah.
Remember when these kind of movies used to be just fun? Because
right.
I kind of think about, it's funny because this movie, it really is there's nothing super cerebral or you don't walk away like it's changed your life, but it's just
and if it was, it would ruin it.
Yeah. As fun escapist fare, it's so good. It works so well. And I always think now that has been such a big hit, I think the people who are making the new Batman movies and the new Superman movies could really learn a lot from this. Why can't a movie like this just be fun?
Well, DC can learn a lot from Marvel, in other words.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Because Guardians of the Galaxy should not be anything but just a fun fluff, little souffle of a film. It should not. That's what it is. It does it so well. And the whole dark angst and all the that stuff is getting old pretty fast. And
you can only do that so many times.
I mean, the Marvel superhero movies do it right. I think they get the right balance. I mean, certain movies they're smart enough to know how to play each movie. For instance, Captain America: Winter Soldier,
Right.
which is fucking fantastic. But it is a little bit more of an adult film. It's really more like a Bourne Identity movie with a superhero,
Right.
And it's
Right.
great, and it should be
Yes.
that. But whereas Guardians of the Galaxy is a much more fluff kind of movie.
It's more like Star Wars, like the original Star Wars.
It's what the last 3 Star Wars films should have been like.
Yes,
Certainly episode 1.
Yes,
I think it was. It might have been Ken Daly who said this, but no, it was not Ken Daly because he was not that much of a fan of this. But somebody on Facebook said this Guardians of the Galaxy is like Star Wars if everybody was Han. And I thought that's really kind of a funny idea. Like everybody is sort of like this sort of larger than life
scoundrel character.
And it works so well. And
and also today, I mean, just only today can you make a movie like this visually believable. I mean, the effects are. I know it's so easy to say now. Like we can do almost anything now, but that's why it's a great time for them to be making this Marvel superhero films. Because if you know what I mean, like they can make them. You can make a superhero film believable now, which is great.
Well, it's funny because you said that we do have the technology, that the technology exists today where you can do absolutely anything. Great example is like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've talked about this, but
I think they hired real talking apes for that movie.
No.
I don't believe
It's actors, but to do the fur and the skin, and it's absolutely. I mean, that is such a great, and it actually did great business.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
I gotta backpedal a little bit. I didn't really voice this as much when we did our ape show. But
Here it comes.
I have come to the conclusion I'm not a fan of this reboot. I've had too many problems. I had so many problems with the last one that I went back to Rise of the Planet of the Apes and rethought that one. Now I don't like that one as much anymore.
Are you serious?
I think you guys are. I think it's the Emperor's New Clothes with this. I think you guys are gushing over it way too freaking much.
Okay, why don't you just go back and watch Interiors?
Yeah. How good are the talking apes in that movie?
There's too much sloppy storytelling. I think that for all the resources that have been put into these movies, it's inexcusable.
Okay,
it's hard
I'm sorry.
For me to enjoy them.
I disagree.
Okay,
I disagree.
well, okay.
I thought Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was fantastic, but we will.
I know I'm in the minority.
I agree there are problems, but I think that there are so much more. There's so many more
positives,
things that work than that detract from that movie.
But I will say this though: the point that we're trying to make though is. Mr. Interiors is that 20 years ago, even 25 years ago, no one would spend this kind of money on these films, and the nerdism or whatever you want to say, the science fiction, fantasy, horror,
nerds are running Hollywood.
I mean, you think about it now. It is cool. It is hip. If you are a nerd at school, I think it's more acceptable now than when it was when we were younger.
The people who said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" are now the people that are running everything. Are those people the people who let me start this again.
Well, it's funny, like the lady who thought that I was retarded, for example.
The lady who thought you were retarded. Now that retarded person is not you, but they are running things.
Yeah, no, I think she's more of the retarded, disturbed person.
It's like when we were growing up, don't you think being a nerd or geek, whatever I want to say, was a bit more of a lonely existence, because there's so much of this stuff out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't, like I said, when we were growing up, we had to seek this stuff out.
Yeah.
And we found it. It was so special. And we hung on to it and we studied everything about, there was a finite number of things, whether they're movies or toys or whatever, that we could grab onto and love and study. And now it's it's just too much.
I was going to say it was more acceptable now. I mean, and all this stuff, it's you have easier access to it now as well.
Yeah. Access is a big part of it. When we were growing up, there were just a few channels, and you had to change their TV with pliers.
Yeah, there's no eBay. There's no anything. I mean, there's no conventions. I mean, not like there are now. I mean,
but that's what Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember at the end of that, feeling like how I felt. There was a time that it seemed like it was like Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back,
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Yeah.
Superman the movie,
And
I was
then
like,
Black
oh
Hole
my God.
came out, and then other movies, and it wasn't the same.
You know,
And then Interiors.
Saturn 3.
And, I actually didn't mind Black Hole. No, I'm no.
Actually, I have an affection for that.
Yeah,
But
you know,
you know what I'm talking about.
I know, I do.
Like-
What happened was everyone was trying to jump on the science fiction
Sure,
bandwagon.
Yeah,
Let's throw-
exactly.
and
in a way, ironically, Star Wars caused a lot of
it
that.
did.
because-
It caused the problems,
Right.
actually.
It's when people aren't looking and paying attention.
Yeah.
Something comes out that is great, that causes a change and gets people's attention, and then once everybody starts grabbing onto it, yeah.
But all those movies like Close Encounters and even E.T., which to me doesn't really hold up as much now, but like
But at the
then,
time, yeah.
at the time I was like, but all those movies, I really at the end of them I felt like this excitement and sense of wonder and optimism.
yeah.
And that's what I got out of Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, boy, it's really gotten back to that. And now this whole wave of Marvel movies. And there was a guy at work we argue all the time about films, and he was like, well, why are they spending all these all this money on these big blockbuster superhero movies when they could also be making small movies and this? I go, look, one, they're out to make money, and two, you're talking to the wrong person about this because I've been waiting for these movies my entire goddamn life.
Because it's fucking cool.
And, and three, there are a bunch of small movies also being made. The independent market is huge right now. It's probably bigger than it's ever been.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like, we can do, and we will do a whole show on superheroes, but so far, to me at least, Marvel has not done a wrong note. I mean, they're ruling.
At their worst, they're great.
At their worst, I mean, like, who knows if it probably will not keep up forever. Eventually, there's going to be a stumble, but so far, they're doing a whole Marvel Phase 2.
There'll be a Saturn 3 in there somewhere.
Yeah, but there's going to be, Ant-Man is coming out, the next Avengers. I mean, so far,
Directed by our friend Peyton Reed.
Oh, yeah. So, right now they are riding high, and they're doing everything right, and I hope they can keep it up. I mean, like I said, it's a great time to be a fan like us and seeing this stuff.
It's funny, after all these years, it is great to just see film after film, and toys come out.
And DVDs and Blu-rays.
Yeah.
Produced by people with the same passions that we share.
Well, again, talking about that, the stuff we grew up on, nowadays, the most obscure title of any kind, whether it's a TV show or a movie, the most obscure things are coming out on like Blu-ray. It's amazing. It's
so
great.
exciting.
I know a lot of people don't physically collect stuff as much anymore. I love physically collecting stuff.
I do too, Sean.
That's part of my room that we've created in our house is we've recreated a cult video store by section, horror, sci-fi, Japanese monsters. Like, I love that.
You have a theremin.
Yes, I do.
He does. He has a
How many
theremin.
people have a
How many
theremin?
people
Right
have a
below our
theremin?
Star Wars poster, and like,
Do you use the theremin during sex? I'm just curious.
Maybe that's going a little too far into what the heck is wrong
Answer
with
the
us.
question.
Yes. But yes, it's a good time to be alive for nerds. I would say the answer to the question, "What the hell is wrong with us?" is nothing.
Yes.
Nothing is wrong with us. And I would have to say, too, that we have been proven right. We have been proven right.
Absolutely.
That we were forward thinkers.
Yeah.
All the things that we thought
I agree.
were great a long time ago, the rest of the world has caught up with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
I agree.
It's true.
We are prophets.
We were ahead of the curve 20 years ago.
We are kind of gods.
We are the new gods.
And that maybe any of the kids who thought we were goofy or weird when they were our age, now their kids probably idolize the stuff that we love.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
My niece, who's like 13, she's into Doctor Who,
Oh.
which has taken the place of Harry Potter. But it's this pop culture explosion of the last 2 decades that has left the mass, the general public, especially kids who have more time on their hands to watch this stuff, susceptible.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Doctor Who! Talk about. I could get away with saying I like Star Trek or Star Wars or something like that. I brought up Doctor Who. That was like everybody.
That was like the ultimate.
Yeah, it was like
nerd
people
show.
like sort of mimicked pulling down the shade of a store. Close for business. I am no longer listening to you. But because
It's exploded now.
Yeah, they
It's so
had all they had to
popular.
do was just sort of rework it and make it a little hipper
totally.
and a little bit better special effects, and next thing you know, it's a pop phenomenon.
Yeah, really.
But so we're all right.
I think so too, Matt. I think
kind of like Doctor Who, we just keep regenerating ourselves. Better and better and better.
this almost needs another episode at some point.
It does.
We need to go through more stories because I know that there's more. The next time we do this, I want to dig deep. I want
Deeper?
Deeper.
More theremin stories.
I want to get into that soft white underbelly.
Okay, well, again, like you said, there's nothing wrong with us, and for the listeners out there, there's nothing wrong with you.
Huh?
If you're listening to Monster Party, there's definitely nothing wrong with you.
No.
You know what I think? I don't think there's anything wrong with us. I think.
Right.
What do you think, James?
I concur.
Do you think there's anything wrong with us?
I think there might be something wrong with me. I think you guys are all right.
I agree that there is something wrong with you.
I agree, too.
We're in agreement. It's
Interiors.
Interiors.
All right, everybody. Well, this has been very informative and enlightening.
Yes, very enlightening.
Yeah, I have learned a lot.
Mr. Interiors.
I have learned a lot about all of you, and now I kind of wish I didn't. But,
Thank you, Mr. Cocaine.
Yeah. No problem. This is Mr. Cocaine. But you guys have been great. I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Sean Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Keep listening to Monster Party, because there's nothing the hell wrong with you.
Ha 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 ha.